So apologies for absence.
We've got apologies from Councillor Jean Cash and James Meek is here this evening substituting.
Okay, welcome James. Item 2, disclosure of interest. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interests and interests other than pecuniary interests as defined under the Sept Town Council Code of Conduct and the Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. Anybody? No? Okay. No public participation at this point? No. Okay, we go on to the head greenkeepers report. Simon.
Good evening. Yeah, we can go on to that. Would you like me to go through it briefly? We'll summarise. Okay, yeah, it's been a funny old year. As I mentioned, we had a lot of issues through lockdown and when the course was closed, with usage of the course in various different ways. They carried on into when the course opened. But very slowly and surely they've subsided quite a bit. Still the odd issue with people roaming in places that we'd try to usher them other directions. But other than that, quite well now. People seem to be sharing the site pretty well, to be honest. Course maintenance wise, we took a lot of damage from animals. I think they also took over the golf course while the golfers were away. So we had a lot of pest damage that we've been dealing with in terms of repairs with soil, seed. We spent a bit more on soil and seed, but through the hot weather and the dry period, we spent a lot less on fuel. So it should balance out okay. Staff-wise, we have lost a member of staff. Ben, he got offered a deputy's job elsewhere, so he's moved on. We advertised. We had 11 applicants. We opted to interview 5, and unfortunately, we got hold of 2 of them to interview, and that then dropped down to 1 because 1 didn't turn up. So at present, we've not found a suitable candidate. Georgia and I are meeting on Wednesday just to go through our options. We're going to adjust the advert slightly and perhaps the requirements that we've asked for, and then look at different methods of free advertising and local advertising, and sort of assess people as and when they come in, because we've been through the full process of having interviews and having an advert out there. We're gonna, should we get an appropriate CV, and we might meet with them on the first instance and then go from there to see if we can fill the position.
Okay, thank you. I understand that the golf buggers are back in use.
They are indeed, yeah.
Yeah, and can you tell us how the pump house is coming on?
I can. The pump house went out to tender, so that all got opted for the company. They started yesterday.
Oh, good.
The base is dug out. They're doing it in 2 phases because they wanted to get all the preliminary work done with the base in place, and then it's a waiting game for the suppliers of the pumps and the building to go over the pumps. So they'll be in a position ready to go as soon as the supplier delivers the pump house in one piece direct to site. So they'll be ready for that to be lifted off the lorry straight into position, and they can then carry on with the connections and stuff. We're looking about 4 to 6 weeks, I reckon, to completion, and that's purely based on the delivery times, the lead times. If they get a delivery sooner, then it will be completed sooner.
Okay, thank you. Anybody got any questions? John, on it, Councillor Edson.
Yeah.
I'll get back
Simon,
to being formal.
I'm looking at the appendix with the greens, the 18th tee and the 17th green. Is there any immediate danger, or are you planning on moving those, or have we got a little bit more time?
The answer to that question is no one has absolutely an idea. We could come in tomorrow and the 17th green could be gone, or we could come back in 15 years and it still be there. What we're currently doing at the moment, I had a site meeting with a golf course construction company, and they gave me a very rough figure for the immediate works to remove the green, which is the closest point to the cliff, and also the Vanguard's Way footpath runs directly between that green and the cliff edge. So that would be if we had to do anything, that would be stage one, and we're in a very, very rough estimate of about £15,000 to shift that green across, and then from there we can phase it to then do a T next for the 18th, which is at the moment is a lot further away from the cliff edge. But we're looking at different methods at the moment. Karen was looking at different options. It's certainly not something that we're budgeting for this year and planning for, but to have that contingency in place and to be talking about it now is the correct way to proceed, I think, because like I say, we could lose a green tomorrow, we could lose it in 15 years, but the decision will have to be made whether we build a green and plan for that eventuality, or whether we risk it and build a green once it ends up at the bottom of the cliff there. But once there's more options and figures in place, then we can go over that again. But in my I'd say we're safe for now. I think our biggest issue will be perhaps the public walkers and the Vanguard's Way footpath, as the path perhaps needs to be directed further away from the cliff top and nearer to the green. That could be a problem before the green falls into the sea, I would imagine.
Mm.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can I just ask another one? You just mentioned that it would be a specialist company that would move the green.
Yeah, there's companies that come along and they would bring their machinery, because we don't have the equipment to do it, and they could on site with the materials we've got shape a new green in the position that we need. But along with that would be the rerouting of the irrigation pipes and the controls to turn that green on and off. And that's probably half the cost, to be honest, is that rerouting of the wires, the pipes and the cables. But then we would in-house, we would then be able to create the putting surface. So we'd have to decide whether we nick the turf from the old green and move it across, which would leave a period of time with no green to play on, or whether we buy in some new turf to returf the green and keep the old one running while that one grows in. But you're going to have a period of ideally a year, and more unideally a few months, where we'd need to maintain the green and grow it in and reduce the height of the grass to get it to a suitable playing surface.
Wow, you learn something every day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions at all?
Councillor Meek had his hand up, Chairman.
James, yeah, Councillor Meek.
Hi, Simon. I just wondered if you had any idea why there were so few applications for the assistant greenkeeper's post.
We had a lot of applications. We had 11 official applications that followed everyone that sent a CV or wrote a letter in. We forwarded them onto the council website where they could fill out the proper form. So we had 11 people do that. We had a few more that didn't complete the form once they were asked to. We just had their CV on file. We whittled it down to 5 because I believe there's probably a lot of people looking for jobs out there, and we decided that 6 out of the 11 weren't suitable candidates for the qualified position. But then when we got down to the 5, 2 got offered of other jobs elsewhere prior to the interview. 1 came and he wasn't suitably qualified or suitably experienced. 1 didn't turn up, and 1 we couldn't get hold of. There's various reasons that I could guess why we didn't get the right people. On the advert we did place, which did get changed, but it was titled Assistant Greenkeeper Seaford Town Council. Now I know there's a lot of greenkeepers that perhaps wouldn't have clicked on that link because they want to work at a golf course, not for a council. But then that was quickly adjusted, so the advert said it's either their golf course, the true place that they'd be working. But no, other than that, I think perhaps the situation at the moment, if people do have a safe job, they'd probably decide whether they wanted to risk moving at this present time. But yeah, I was pleased with 11, but as we routed through them, then perhaps some were just looking for any job rather than dedicated greenkeeper's job.
Can I come back, Chair, please?
Yes, please do.
I just wondered, it's just an idea. I understand that you're wanting people who are qualified, but I just wondered if there's any mileage in, or whether you would consider an internship for somebody who wasn't qualified, so that you could actually get someone working for you who you could train up, and then possibly the town council could help to see them through gaining some qualifications. I just feel that in our present situation with lack of finances, I wondered if you might be able to get a keen young person who isn't qualified, but if you kind of judge them to be the kind of person you would like to work with, whether we could encourage someone to kind of work through the system with you to kind of get qualified. Is that a potential, or is that completely out of the question?
It is a potential, but it's also a step backwards. We did have apprentices for 2-year slots prior to 2 years ago, when we offered one of our guys at a full-time position. Because we're a small team, we don't necessarily have the time to lose a person 1 day a week to go to college, and then also we don't have the numbers to be able to shadow someone and teach them the ropes. But on the other hand, one of the options George and I did discuss was we're going to remove the need for a qualification, but perhaps leave the experience in there. Because I know, for example, up the other golf club in Seaford, they've got 2 or 3 greenkeepers that aren't qualified, but have been working in greenkeeping for more than 5 years. And that would be someone that would be suitable for our position. And as an assessor myself, if they were at that ability already, we could put them on an apprenticeship and I could sign them off in-house. So we wouldn't have to lose them 1 day a week. We could, so I think that will be our next step. George and I are meeting Wednesday to finalise that. But if we could, it would be nice to keep someone with the experience, just to keep the progression and keep the maintenance to the level that we've been able to since removing the apprentice position.
Thank you.
Any other questions at all? Okay, well, the committee's recommended to note the contents of this report. Everybody okay with that? A little show of hands. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Simon. That was a very comprehensive breakdown of where we are, and thank you to yourself and the members of the maintenance team. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the golf professionals report. Doesn't seem to be with us.
We've had a message from the golf pro to say that he's having troubles logging in. So
Right.
I just wondered, I was just going to ask Simon if you could maybe ask him to let me know somehow. I've emailed him, but let me know what the sort of technical problems are. And I wondered whether, Chair, you might be able to maybe move the general manager's report first.
Yes, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'll go on to the next report, which is for Craig. It's a confidential report because of the nature of the financial situation in there. So, Craig, if you'd like to give us a breakdown, please.
Hi, yes. I mean, the report is there. To add to the report some good news, we had a very, very good August, and we've made a pre-loan profit in August of £6,000. It has been very, very busy. And the Eat Out to Help Out helped a lot, which was noted in the report. As to getting back to some sort of normality, we're waiting for government guidelines on more functions, and we're looking in October, as I say in the report there, about holding wakes and more functions that we can do for under 30 people. The problem is, as I say there, if we close the function room, we also have to close outside because we don't have a one-way system. So that really needs some serious consideration. In winter time is fine. We couldn't have done that in August. It would have cost us a fortune. I've also spoken to comedy and jazz, and they need more than 30 people to make it financially viable for them. So they're not keen to come back in, whilst 30 people is still the maximum numbers. So hopefully these new guidelines due out towards the 1st of October may increase that. We just don't know. I wish I could say more. Same goes for Christmas. We're planning Christmas. Menus are written. We have a good idea of what we can do. It's just being allowed to do it. Socially distanced dinner parties rather than discos and dances. But again, we're waiting for guidelines from the government. Any questions, really, I guess?
I think we've got to accept this is a very difficult time for everybody, particularly in you know, the industry of having the cafes and restaurants and that open. We are very much restricted by the number of people that we can get into the view because of the way it's been constructed. I've been up there several times in the last couple of weeks, and every time I go there, there's been quite a good a lot of people in there eating and drinking, and particularly outside, but I guess that will start to fall off slowly now. So it's very encouraging, and I know that Craig's working extremely hard to make the thing pay as much as he can, and as he said, we had a very good August and not a very good July, but that's life, isn't it? So we really don't know what's happening in the next few months. It just depends. I've just seen on the news that there's been a spike of cases in Sussex, you know, and not very reassuring, is it? And the children back at school and that. So any other questions for Craig?
Councillor Everden's got her hand up.
Yeah.
Hi, I just wanted to ask 2 questions. Where the function room is, the set of windows that look out over the golf course, do they concertina or open up at all, or do they just have one door?
No, we just have one door.
Because I know that I've got a friend who does functions, but they have concertina doors, and if they open one side up, they're actually classed as an outside event.
Yeah.
So they've been able to hold things because they can open that entire back part up. And the other thing I was wondering is, just off the back there, just to get some, you know, the comedy and the various things going, I don't know if you have in stock a marquee or anything like that, because I know that you can have a marquee up and then people can go in and out of the bar, and it would just mean that the jazz and the comedy and the things that you were having previously that at least brought a bit of income in could go on again.
Yeah, they weren't, that came up in today's discussion, they weren't keen on that purely because we're going into colder nights.
Yeah.
If this was still going on next March, then they would be keen to explore that, but now going into autumn, winter, it's not something they want to explore, unfortunately.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions at all?
Councillor Meek has got his hand up.
Yeah, Councillor Meek. Oh yes, I can see you now, Councillor Meek.
Craig, I wondered, I mean, I know we're only 8 days into September. Have you noticed a particular falling off from the since the kind of Eat Out to Help Out has stopped?
Ever so slightly, not last week. Last week was still a very, very busy week. We took £10,000 again, which was great. This week, yesterday and today are a little bit down. I think last week we took £1,300 each day. This week we've taken sort of £950. So it is slightly down.
Okay, I just noticed. I was up in Tunbridge area recently, and I just noticed that there was a pub up there, which, following on from the Eat Out to Help Out, are offering half-price meals similar to the government's one, just on Mondays throughout September, October, November, obviously to kind of take them through to Christmas. And I just didn't know if that's a kind of idea that would help just to get people still coming at the lean time of the week. And I mean, I know you would take a hit on the profit from the food, but if it gets people in to have some have a drink at the bar, it might just help you a bit. I don't know. It's just an idea I saw.
The problem with that is that people aren't drinking. Because we're only open for lunch, people aren't drinking. So they're coming in, getting their 50% off, having a glass of Coca-Cola or a glass of water even, and going. So if we're reducing the price on the food, you're writing the day off completely because they're not drinking.
So could someone fill me in as to why you're not opening further than into the evening?
Because nobody comes. It's predominantly not financially viable to open the venue in the evenings as a restaurant.
Yeah, I can support that, Councillor Meek, because I've been up in the club many times in the evenings for meetings and other things like that, and really there's absolutely nobody in the bar, and you've got two or three staff working in the place. You've got to pay the overheads and the wages, and it's just not viable. It really isn't. Sorry, but that's the way it is. I'm sure Craig will back that up too.
We have tried. We have tried.
Yes.
Has that always been the case?
Sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's only worth opening in the evenings when there's a function on or an event.
Yeah.
Opening up as a restaurant or a bar just does not work.
Okay. Okay.
People just don't go up there. I don't know why. I mean, it's in the evening. You know, perhaps it's too far out of town. I don't know. Any other questions, Tom? No. Okay, so I think we be asked to note the general manager's report. Is anybody okay with that? Yes. Have you shown indication? Anybody against? Okay, that's passed then. Any sign of Fraser yet?
No, I'm not sure he's going to make it. He's basically said that he's tried so many times. He thinks it's his internet, so it's not something I'm going to be able to help with from here. I mean, I'm happy to take us through the report. There's a few things I'd quite like to highlight if you're happy for me to take that, Chair.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Yeah,
so I think it was already mentioned, but the golf buggies have gone out again. So that's something that we're trialling. So that can be reported again at the next meeting. And we're also going to be starting the societies, but with groups of up to 12. So again, we're going to trial this, see how it goes, and then go from there. We're obviously having to keep following the guidance that's coming through from Golf England. But that's all I've got as an addition without Fraser being here. I don't know if Simon's got anything further that he might be able to add to that in terms of any discussions that he's had with Fraser recently. Sorry.
Hello. No, that's right. Not much, to be honest. I know buggies have gone very well. They're going out once a day at the moment. I think as and when a plan is made for their storage and putting away, because prior to lockdown the buggies were put away later in the evening, so they can perhaps do 2 rounds in a day, but that's not possible at the moment. But they're still popular. We're going to try and keep them out as long as we can into winter, weather dependent. Normally that's the case for safety reasons with our hills, especially up here. I think the green fees, from what I understand and from what we spoke about at CMT meetings, have been doing very well and covered quite a lot of the shortfall in other areas. So I think he's hoping that we can continue to keep those green fees coming in and being welcoming to the public. So it might even translate into members next year, who knows, but he would be a much better place to answer most of the other information you might need.
In his email to me, he says he's more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Any committee members want to email him directly, so please feel free to ask him some questions.
You can see from the report, item 2.3, that we've got 49 new members this week. I know Fraser's working very hard, having spoken to him recently, to increase the membership, but it is very difficult in this sort of particular time. They're looking at keeping the prices the same next year and offering the popular 15 for 12 deal in January. You pay in January, you get the 3 months plus the 12 months membership. So that might encourage people to come on and join. Societies have been pretty low. Well, I don't think we've had any of them. Well, we might have had 1 or 2, perhaps some small ones, but I can't remember Fraser saying anything about that. So we are where we are. So any other questions on the report? No? Again, we're asked to note the reports. Everybody happy with that?
Oh, sorry, the head greenkeeper just would like.
Just to reply with regard to societies, the restrictions were such that up until perhaps a few weeks ago, we couldn't encourage group bookings. Only no more than 4 people, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think now they're trialling it to also, along with Craig being able to cater for certain size numbers, table sizes and group sizes. So that's why it's now gone to 12. But I think prior to that, it would have been groups of 4 booking separately that then met up with their friends elsewhere. So whereas in the booking and on the finances, it would have come through as a society booking, we perhaps took it as 3 sets of green fees rather than a society. So they may well have visited, but they had to book under their own names and they had to follow the guidelines that were in place.
Okay, thank you.
And also, sorry, just to add on to that, Chair, if I can, just that the other thing that Fraser said at CMT meetings is that a lot of the usual societies have rebooked for next year. So we're trialing the up to 12, but this would be more sort of new societies because most of the regular societies have rebooked. They postponed rather than cancelled. So that's just another thing to note as well.
Right, okay. Any other points at all? Okay, we all happy to note the report? Yes? Okay, well, we'll close the meeting at 7:35.